Hello and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. On Sunday, February 5th, 2023. Yes, February 5th. Earlier on the Survival Sunday video, I said it was February 6th. And that was my mistake. I got ahead of myself a little bit. Uh, it's crazy how easy it is nowadays to get the date mixed up, especially if you are not working at a job, which you need to check the date constantly. Sometimes it's so easy to let the time get away from you. So today I want to rehash on a topic that I may have talked about before. Actually, I know I have talked about this before in the episode where I talked about the art of being a nice guy or the art of being Mr. Nice Guy. Why am I rehashing it even though I remember talking about it? Because sometimes when you come to the matters of the heart or the matter of sociology or psychology or human interaction, I think there are a lot of things that are worthwhile repeating again and again and again and again. Because some of these, you and I have heard it over and over, but let's be honest, there are many times that we still make mistakes because, well, at the time when we make those mistakes, we're not thinking about these things that we heard on a lecture, a conference, or a YouTube video before. So I think they are worthwhile repeating just so we have more of a chance to hear them from a different perspective or in a slightly different way without having to go back and scroll back through hundreds of videos and find that past episode where this was mentioned before. Earlier this week, I saw a post on Facebook which frankly was the inspiration that led me to want to rehash this point. The post was very short but very meaningful. It went that once upon a time there was a man who would always go to the market. He would buy things from the people who were poor, even though they were things that he didn't need, there were things that he already had, or there were things that were obviously no good. He would buy them regardless and give them money. Sometimes he would give them more money than what those things were worth. And when his family members asked him, "Why do you do this foolish thing? Why do you waste money on things that you don't need and you don't want and are useless?" This man simply replied, "This is called charity cloaked in dignity." Charity cloaked in dignity. This is a very strong concept that a lot of us in the modern world sometimes forget, neglect, and overlook. We think we're doing good things by offering someone help. We think we're doing good things by giving someone help. But at the time when we do that, we overlook the person's dignity. And this can be very detrimental to your friendship or relationship with the person because it doesn't matter if you do help the person, it doesn't matter if you do someone a favor, if you do it in a way that damages their feeling or their dignity, then in the long run, they will more likely, not all the time, but most of them will remember the pain, the embarrassment you bring to them rather than the favor you bring to them. Throughout Chinese history, there were a lot of examples of people who will set their pride above any kind of aid that was given to them, such as in one story where a scholar was really poor and he lived next door to a very rich person, and this scholar was sick and starving to death and didn't have money for medicine. And this rich person was actually very nice, and he decided, oh, I should bring food to the poor person next door, to the scholar next door to me. However, this rich person had this little problematic thing that he liked to do. He had the personality that whenever he brought food to the scholar, he liked to announce it to everyone to hear. So he would bring the food and he would knock on the door and he would announce at the top of the food, his voice, and say, "Hey, Johnny, I bring you food. I know you're starving. I know you have no money. I bring you food. Here, come get your food. I give you really good food." He would announce that for the whole neighborhood to hear. And long story short, a few months later, the guy next door, the scholar, starved to death. And the rich guy, the millionaire, he was perplexed. He like, I brought him food every day. How can he be starving to death? How did he starve to death? That doesn't make sense. And then it's not until they went through his house that they realized all the food that he brought were dumped outside. None of them were consumed. This scholar rather starve himself to death than eat any of the food because he couldn't bear the shame, the embarrassment that the entire neighborhood knew that he was getting free food from the rich guy next door. This is a very extreme case, but this is one of those examples where when you want to help somebody, you really need to take their feeling into consideration. Otherwise, it may lead to very undesirable consequences, either for you or for them. At the least, they will turn down your help and they will suffer continuously. At the worst, they will take your help, but in the future, they will actually exact vengeance upon you because of the embarrassment or the in way you ruined their dignity when you offered aid. A very real life example that I personally have experienced is now that my parents are older. My father is 81 years old and my mother is in her 70s, and quite often my father will point out, well, how come you, meaning my mom, and my father would say, how come you don't appreciate what I did for you your whole life? Without me, you would have been in the slum. Without me, you wouldn't be able to travel the world. It's because of me that you got to live in a big house. You would have housemaid, and you would be able to be the. You never had to go out and look for work, look for jobs, and you can have all the money you needed. How come you don't appreciate that? But from my mother's point of view, my mother uh, doesn't think of those things. My mother remembers the time my father beat her up so bad that she had to be in the hospital every month. Honestly, I'm not even lying about that. Like my mom, when I was little, literally would have to go to the hospital at least once every month. My mom remembered that. My mom remembered all the times where she had to tiptoe around my father so she wouldn't incur his anger. My mom remembered the time when she had to stay up until 6 in the morning just to do accounting for him and look after his business. She remembers all the unpleasant stuff, not the traveling around the world, not the big house, not the BMW, not the Mercedes, not the housemaid, not the jewelries. She remembered all the hardship that he put her through. Now, some people may say, well, that's not right. That like, how come you only remember the bad stuff? How come you don't remember the good stuff? How come you don't remember the favor I did for you? How come you just remember the bad thing? After all, a favor is a favor. You shouldn't, uh, you shouldn't downplay that just because of the manner it was given. Well, it's not so simple because this is not the kind of thing that is about right or wrong. This is actually as far back as it is programmed into our DNA. And this ability to remember bad things over good things, to prioritize bad memory over good memory, This is not a willful choice. This is not something that we do on purpose. This is something that is intrinsically programmed into every human being's DNA. If you don't believe me, just think about that for a second. If I slap you and then give you $20, and then I slap you and give you $20, every day I see you, I slap you in the face and give you $20. Are you going to look forward to that $20, or are you going to be cringing because you know that slap is coming? Most likely, if you're honest with yourself, you will say that you every day you see me, you cringe because you know that slap is coming. You're not going to be happy because you're going to get $20 after that slap, right? Okay, so this is the same thing. Human beings, animals in general, we are programmed to remember horrible, bad things much more than good things. Why? Because remembering good things does not benefit us as much as remembering bad things. You remembering which tree has the best apple is not as it's not as important, is not as advantageous as you remember which tree's apple gave you food poison, so you can avoid that tree. Right? You remembering which animal was nice to you is not quite as important as you remember to avoid which animal that can kill you. So remembering bad experience in the evolutionary term is much more advantageous. It helps you survive much better than remembering good stuff. This is why most people, uh, if you wrong them, if you embarrass them, if you shame them, they can remember that for a lifetime. It doesn't matter how much good you do while doing that. So it is all well and good to want to help somebody. It is all well and good to want to be charitable to somebody. But when you are doing so, don't forget to put that person's feeling and dignity at priority. Otherwise, you will be wasting your effort. You will not get a friend. You will get an enemy in the long term. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday, and I'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.